nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
It's been a long journey, really, and it's just taking everything like a day at a time and not getting too far ahead of myself and things like that. It's just taking the things day at a time, and it's like with practices, just getting better at one thing every day, and just know like your time's going to come, and then when your time's there, just be ready for it. And I feel like I was ready for it.
Yeah, Christian Darrisaw. Alex Boone, is that how you were, or when you talked to the media about your mental strategy, was it more like, listen, I'm like 3-4 days at a time. I'm usually thinking between like now and Thursday. You know, some guys think one day at a time. I think, in week and a half chunks, actually. That's the way my mind works.
No, dude, it's like 1 hour chunks. I mean, what am I going to do for the next hour? And then after that, I don't really care. And that was what was so fun about playing in the league is like your whole day was scheduled out. Even like when you were going to bed, you were like, this is great. I don't have to do anything. Where do I need to be? Trainer? All right, I'm on my way. It's just awesome.
That's got to be weird. It's like 10 or, well, college is scheduled. It's like 15 years. And like for 15 years, someone's just telling you, eat this, do this, be here at this time, think about this.
Dude, it was like high school too. I mean, high school in Ohio was insane. And back then it was like I could only play football. They didn't let me play anything but football. And I trained with a lot of the pro athletes at the time, like London Fletcher and stuff like that. And so it was, even those days were scheduled out. But I'll tell you what, man, it's different when you get to make your own days. You're like, I know how to be extremely efficient. I can get up super early and get everything knocked out like I would in football. And then all of a sudden you just start your day. It's great. I love it.
All right. How much do you love football?
So much.
Like quite a bit?
I love her. She's the best.
All right, we'll see how much you love football compared to the wife.
You think you like football? Brett Favre doesn't just like football. He loves football.
All right, here we go. They're going to jump right here. You know they're going to jump. Everybody hold your water. Green right slot. 98 handoff slot on 3. Ready? Balls, balls, balls. Balls, balls, balls. Balls. Green 18. Green 18. 10. Football! Football!
Oh, hey, how much would you have loved?
Gotta eat.
How much would you have loved to have played with him? Like, just to be in the huddle one time. Like, you always see those little, like, skid bits of him, like, messing with the refs. Just imagine what he said in that huddle. Because they weren't, like, the mic'd up wasn't big back then. You couldn't do sound FX. Nobody wanted to know what was going on. And he was probably talking about the funniest stuff in those huddles.
Covering him, Booney, was fantastic. He was so much fun to cover. Like, everything he did drew people to him. And I don't know how, but I mean, he just had this Favrean way. But man, such a character. And I will say this: there was the game that was mic'd up. I think it was a late '90s game, probably for the Packers, where Mr. Miyagi was there.
Yes.
And Brett's like, hey, that's Mr. Miyagi over there. And he's like, goes and talks to him during the game. That type of stuff was just so bleeping awesome.
Judd, did Brett ever slap you on the ass when you covered that team? Did you ever walk by at practice and just
Please tell me that would have been the greatest highlight of someone's life. Well, yeah, he slapped me right there. Yeah, I got it.
But he loved slapping towels, man. He'd take those towels and like wind them tight and slap guys.
Get some water on them. Oh, it's the worst.
Oh man,
football. Can't do that anymore. Cancel culture.
So,
exactly.
This is Purple Daily. We're just hoping not to get canceled. Presented by Surly Brewing Company, Phil Mackey, Judd Zulgad, our executive producer, Declan Goff, and our football-loving friend and 10-year NFL vet, Alex Boone. By the way, if you're watching us on the Purple Daily YouTube channel and you're watching on a TCL TV, thanks for supporting the show, the brand. They got a new lineup of award-winning TVs delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution, all at an affordable cost. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. You heard from Christian Darrisaw at the top of the show there. And Booney, Pro Football Focus tracks things like this. He's played 70 pass blocking snaps, and he's allowed 1 pressure in 2 games. That's pretty good.
Dude's good. And then you look at what they did against the Panthers. I mean, the Panthers started this season so red hot with Brian Burns and Hassan Riddick. And who would have thought Hassan Riddick would have turned into a real pass rusher? Like, when I was with the Cardinals with him, he didn't seem like it was clicking. But now, man, he is hitting on all cylinders. And he's got a nasty little speed to bull. But, I think that was going to be the question going in was, what happens with this rookie? And I'm going to be honest with you, man. This kid is impressive. Like, the kid in the Chargers, Slaughter, he's he's another one. Like these two, to me, they're standing out a lot because of how stout they are, and they don't get pushed around. And that shows up so much on film. Like when you're watching plays and you're wondering why people aren't hitting these holes and why can't this running back get through a lane? Like what is going on? Normally this guy's impressive, but you see these offensive linemen getting pushed around, but this young kid, gosh, he looks good out there. And like when you go into a stadium like the Panthers, when they're kind of reeling too, so you know their fans are going to do everything they can to get into it. Their defense knows this, so they're going to be super hyped. So they're just going to be trying to get right after Kirk, and they know the game plan. Get after Kirk, the game's over. So for him to step up, especially with Brian O'Neill, like I think the outsides are looking really, really tough right now.
How tough is that too for him to step in and look this good this quick? Because that's the thing is, I thought it would take some time. Not that he would be a disaster, Booney, but I just thought, he'll look gradually better. But he's looked impressive from his time playing snaps against Detroit, and then really good on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think that was the thing, was like it's not one of these teams where you're like, well, they don't really have any pass rushers, or they haven't really been getting after the quarterback. Like, this is a team that has kind of been a little notorious to start the year. And you got to look like this is the problem with the league always, is it's so up and down. Like you look at last night, and I never would have thought the Bills would have lost, but they did. And it's like, which team is going to show up? And I feel like so many teams have this problem, but there is always one team that doesn't. And it normally focuses on wherever Tom is. They always seem to understand that like game day is game day, and we just got to take care of business before we do anything else. But these other teams, they Jekyll and Hyde you. But the one thing we did know was that the Panthers do have a good pass rush. They've been getting after people. They've been having fun. So for him to come in there, and especially in the passing situations, he just looks so stout. Now, there are times where you're like, he's a little bit slow, or maybe there's a little rookie mistake, but that's to be expected. Like in the run game, things happen so fast, and there's so many ways that a team's going to attack you with Dalvin Cook in the backfield, especially the way he was running the ball. I mean, like, all the hands are in the air at that point. Like, dude, just get on somebody, stick in front of them, and keep going. But when you talk about the pass game, like to be able to stand in there, especially for a quarterback like Kirk, like I said, it's going to be huge for him. And if this is the beginning and he's only going to be taking steps forward, I can't wait to see where this goes.
Dude, I'm gonna unleash my nerd football stat of the week here right now.
Those nerds!
All right.
Nerds!
So Kirk, we've kind of known this throughout his career. Kirk is, when Kirk can leverage play action and when the pocket is clean, he's been one of the most accurate quarterbacks. When things get muddy or the defense knows he has to pass throughout his career, the performance starts to go down. When it's a good opponent or a primetime game, like when conditions are perfect and comfortable and it's home and it's noon, like he tends to thrive. He's been better late in games this year. He's probably saved Mike Zimmer's job 2 weeks in a row by driving him down the field. But here's my nerd football stat. So Cousins has only been pressured on 29% of dropbacks this season, which is 13th best in the NFL. So the Vikings are above average finally in at least keeping the pocket clean for Kirk. So when he's been pressured, again, 29% of the dropbacks he's been pressured, which isn't that much. 45% completions when pressured and 4 yards per attempt, which is terrible.
Yep.
When the pocket's clean this season, almost 80% completions and almost 9 yards per attempt. So he's legitimately like obviously you don't get a clean pocket all the time. If you're playing in the NFC Championship game against the Buccaneers, like you're not gonna have a clean pocket all the time.
Sorry, Brody.
But
so here, can I say something? Because this goes back to why everybody always kind of rags on Kirk. If you want to be considered a good quarterback in this league, when the pressure is on or the game is in tow or it's a big primetime game, you have to win those games. Like these are just like people are always like, oh, why does Kirk not get respect? Because when he does get pressured, he looks like Baker Mayfield. And you're like, dude, that's exactly what we thought would happen. When you can learn how to navigate through the pressure or even work through how you're going to blitz, how you're going to respond to these things. Like if you can just manage that and be better at that, people would think you were like all world. They'd be like, look what this guy does for this team. Like he's huge in the play action. He's huge in the pass game. But the minute a little bit of riff happens, everything goes awry. Like that's why people are always like, well, who knows what's going to happen? It depends on the O-line.
Actually, I have a question off that because I think we always talk in terms of how the offensive line impacts a quarterback, right? Like, well, the offensive line needs to do this so that the quarterback can do that. And yet I watched Peyton Manning for 15 plus years. That dude, he would go through he went through a full season. And by the way, Peyton Manning is like stuck in quicksand. He's the least mobile quarterback in NFL history.
Ever.
And there was one season where he was sacked like 9 times. Most seasons he was sacked like on average maybe once per game. For a guy that can't escape pressure and would just curl up in the fetal position if someone got through. But so like my theory has always been a great quarterback finds ways to also make an offensive line look better. Not just because he's Lamar Jackson and can run around, but like, is that it? Like, how can quarterbacks help their offensive line be better? Is that a thing besides being mobile?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at some of these quarterbacks and they like try to extend plays and it just never works. Like as of late, like Big Ben, like, he tries to extend the plays when it's like, dude, just throw the ball away.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he takes this gruesome hit and we're blaming the O-line and it's like, yeah, I get it. Like you have to hold your block for a while, but at the same time, like Ben knows better than that. He's got to get rid of the ball. And these are things that fall on the quarterback. But like when you talk about a guy like Peyton, I've heard so many stories about how like the offensive coordinator would come in the room and it was just like, all right, guys, here's the first 15. And all of a sudden Peyton would be like, oh no, we said we were going to scratch 2. That's out, way out. Bring 4 up to 3. Bring 12 up to 9, and I want to throw in 2 jet Dino. As a matter of fact, scrap 10. Like he was just like this guy that, and the OC was like, all right, you're right.
Cool.
Like,
yep.
Tom Moore was like, I love it, because I played with Tom, and Tom was the greatest. But like when they talked about Peyton, they were like, dude, nobody was more cerebral than Peyton, and the way he would command a room, and the way he was like, if you dropped a ball on his team, you were like, I don't know if I'm getting another one. Like, I just don't like the accountability factor was so huge. And that's why he was so great, though, because they were all on the same page. And they said that, like, he would have pre meetings to the pre-meeting just to be like, hey, by the way, we're going to change the name Cougar over to Dino or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden it'd be like they go in this long rant about it. And, like, they were like, dude, you just always knew what to do. And that's such a big flaw right now in this league is that it just looks sloppy at times because the communication is so low and it's lacking because people aren't paying attention or whatever. But like when you talk about a Peyton offense, if there was a blitz coming, you knew you were the hot route. You knew when to look for the ball. And you knew if you didn't catch it, you were just to walk to the sideline. Like guys told me like, dude, I played with Austin Collie and he was like, bro, I dropped one time and it's just, I thought it was over. Like he pointed to the sideline like, just go. I don't want to see you again. And he was like,
go home, dude.
I was like, really? Like he was like, dude, I was so scared. And he was like, but when I went back out there, he threw me the ball. He's like, let me tell you something, dude. There was no way that ball was hitting the ground. And that was the accountability factor. When you talk about a guy like that, like you're gonna play so hard no matter what for a guy like that.
Yeah. So Booney, what if you played with Kirk right now? How much of your perception or feeling about him has changed? Because the one thing is, the pressure thing for Kirk has always been a problem. And yes, that might be on the line at times. I get that. But if you're his teammate now and in back-to-back games against at least one really solid defense in the Panthers, he did an impressive job, not once, but twice. Yeah. How much would your feeling about this guy potentially shift from, 2 years back when it felt like, a game like Sunday was almost certainly lost if Kirk got it late in the game?
I don't think I've ever really thought. I mean, this is so different because as a player, you can't have that opinion about somebody. You can't be the guy back there that's being all negative. Like no matter how
Judd.
bad. Yeah,
like
Judd.
Like Dad.
When
I'll take care of that.
Like if you're a teammate, no matter what, like even when you know that the bad quarterbacks are in, and I've played with some bad quarterbacks, and you're just like, man, this is going to be a train wreck. But at the same time, you know that you're liable for anything that happens. So it's. At some point your pride will kick in and be like, listen, if we have to hold this block for however long, like we can't let this dude get peppered all day because people are going to blame us no matter what. And that as an offensive line going in. I think Kirk gets a lot of people talk negative about him because of the things I just said. But as an offensive lineman, if I know that that's my quarterback and he's going to get spooked with any sign of pressure, I know that it's on us then to figure it out. And we have to be more vocal. We have to be willing to pick up more blitzes. Like the problem with Kirk is he is the quarterback he is, and the interior offensive line gets pushed around way too much. And it's like, listen, you could probably manage with maybe a bad tackle or maybe 2 bad tackles because you can be saved by the interior. But when you have pressure that comes up the middle and a guy that's not very quick, and I say quick, not fast, that's when trouble happens. And then they get spooked and the game is over. But if I'm an offensive lineman, I know going in, listen, no matter what, we have to secure these 3 technique and this nose tackle before I move out to my tackle. These guys have to be dead cold stopped before I move out. And sometimes you see it, and even in this last Panthers game, like guys are moving too fast through the 3 technique. As you're sliding, my whole job is to, number one, stop him, deliver him to my center, and then I can look out. I'm not allowed to leave until my center gives me a go call or I feel a tap. But after, you see it now, guys are just hitting and they're leaving. And these 3 techniques are getting so much pressure because no one's stopping their initial rush. And it's driving me nuts because centers get such a bad rap. But when you're sliding down the line and you have a 320-pound dude coming after you, like, you don't have a lot of time to sit down and anchor. That's what your guard's for. And if you don't have good guards, you're seeing it now. All this pressure from these quarterbacks, they just can't get away from it.
So, okay, so Oli Udoh, by the way, the poor guy he had like family at the game, and he committed 4 penalties at right guard. And he started pretty hot, but it's a right guard's a new position left guard's a new position for Ezra Cleveland, and he looks like he's kind of holding his own. But Garrett Bradbury, first round pick from 3 years ago, he's the one that gets, I think, most of the negative sort of attention. But he's also like, I just looked it up, of all the centers in the NFL, he's allowed the second most pressure so far through 6 games. That's the same story as the last couple of years. How much of a Garrett Bradbury problem do the Vikings have versus if you were to put actual like 2 veteran, good, stable guards next to him the first 3 years of his career? How do you look at that situation?
Dude, when I came in and I was starting, we brought a guy in named Jonathan Goodwin from the Saints, and he was kind of in the same situation. He wasn't a very physical guy. He was extremely smart. But he was kind of the guy that was like, listen, if the heavy work needs to get lifted, you two are going to have to do it for me, but I'll get us in the right spot. And you always knew he'd cover you. But, like, that's the situation they have here. And when you do that, you basically – I mean, he had Jahari Evans and Carl Nicks back when they were, like, the dudes. Remember that? Like, you could do no wrong with those guys. And I put a little bit on the guards because there are times – like, there was a play I was looking at. It was, like, 2nd and 2. It should have easily been converted. It was Dalvin Cook running to the right side. All of a sudden, the ball gets snapped. 3 technique gets shifted by the linebacker because clearly he was lined up wrong because they're idiots. But as he shifts out, he like goes back in, and Oli Udoh like kind of touches him but leaves him. And Bradbury's clearly has no conversations with him because he's just climbing to the second level. But they're like these simple plays that you're like, wait a minute, what is going on? Like, I know Bradbury's probably getting a lot of that, but at the same time, it falls on the guards too to be like, hey man, we need to talk this out more. We need to be in better communication. It's week 6. We're already into the season. And if I was on Bruce Arians' team, he'd tell you the season's almost over. Like, teams are defining themselves right now. Their identities are being shown. And when you're an offensive line and you don't have an identity, it's scary because people will come out and they will mess with you. And these are the things they're starting to see. And like, on the show on Sunday, I was talking about, how do you stop a good run team? Well, you slant the D-line. Because as we're moving, I'm not expecting you to move anywhere but straight ahead. And if you go sideways, like if you go away, sometimes it'll mess me up on my track. So I'll like stop to come back. Well, then all of a sudden the linebacker will fill, right? Like it's just the way it works really well. And they're starting to see some of this. And if you don't have great communication, like I know when my center's with me and I know when he's not with me. These are things I must always, always know. If I don't know that and I just let 3 techniques go inside, like these plays that should be hammered home are going to end up with a -2 loss. And it drives you nuts as an offense because you're like, why are we stalling out? Oh, nobody's blocking the 3 technique. Well, how dumb is that? The guy's right there on the line of scrimmage and nobody blocked him.
Is Bradbury fixable? Like,
yes,
because he's not a big guy. These 3 techs and nose tackles, to your point, are so big now. How fixable are his deficiencies? Because he's 3 years in now?
Yeah.
So he's not new, but how fixable?
He's still new car smell. I mean, come on, the guy. I mean, he's
it's like the faded air freshener.
You think he's a new car smell at this point? First round pick?
I do. I think that if I were
it's a Carfax guy.
Listen, and these are the things that bother me.
Get the Carfax.
And I don't know.
He's been in a few crashes.
I want to see it. I
feel like he's been in a few crashes.
Nobody ever changed the oil over here, buddy. I don't know about this.
I drove him off the lot. I immediately got sideswiped.
No,
the car's never been the same since. Doesn't smell that good to me.
Here's the problem that they have. They're not adapting. And this is what drives me nuts when O-line coaches sit back and they pretend like they don't have an answer. Like, dude, stop being stupid and start thinking. If I'm the O-line coach right now, I'm saying, hey, we got a problem at our center. Dude's getting thrown around a little bit like a rag doll. Okay, got it. Number 1, dude, you need to eat some more cheeseburgers. Number 2, anytime we slide with Garrett,
yes,
we're instantly going to hit the 3 technique, and we're not going anywhere. Like, the thing that made the Saints so good was they did more mic declarations. And now pay attention because we're going down this rabbit hole, and this is fun.
Football.
You come for the Kirk Cousins ripping, and you stay for the mic declarations.
My grandma's calling me. She's getting excited.
She heard mic declaration. She's like, I'm in on this.
I'm in.
Yes.
All right, so
taught you everything you know.
There's a lot of ways.
Got my notes out.
there's a lot of ways you can pass block. And one of the biggest ways that we used to do, and a lot of teams do, is they go to the slot, right? Like anytime anything happens, you instantly go to the slot. Now, if I see rotation away, I have to kill it away because there's something coming the other side and I want to protect it with the big boys. But when you have a center that can't really hold up in a real slide, because like I said, him going from the center position to slide out to hit a 3 technique that's built momentum to hit him, it's just not going to work. So what the Saints used to do and what we always wanted to try and do, but they never would let us. And I know why. It was because we were very athletic. And they were like, hey, if we can spread these guys out, let's spread them because they're tough enough to go thin one-on-one against everybody. But when you have this situation, you say, hey, no, this is what we do. We go to the mic because the mic's probably where? In the middle. So the center doesn't have to slide anywhere. If I declare a guy out there, the center technically has to slide all the way out to be able to see him because if he comes, we have to take him. Now, if we declare the guy in front of me, I don't have to go anywhere. So then I basically say hole, I'd say hole or I'd say man to the guy in front of me. And then my guards know, okay, this guard has the 3 technique, this guard has a shade, and I'll be here to help with the shade and be looking to the 3 while I'm keeping my eyes on the mic. And you keep this triangle real tight instead of spreading it way out and saying, hey, we have to cover all this ground. Well, no, now we're just going to cover the middle. What's great about that, and you could switch to it too, because Darrisaw is really good so far. If the tackles are the problem, if you can't have tackles that can push people up real tight, like real high to the pocket, this won't work because normally your front end, your interior is going to stay real stout, and your tackles will go way back, and then your quarterback just climbs the pocket as the defenders come around. And that's how the Saints made all of their money. They were super stout in the middle, and their tackles just rode dudes around the edge, and Drew just step, throw. And this seems perfect, doesn't it, for Kirk? Like, hey, we're going to let him get to the back of the pocket, declare the size of it, and then he's going to slowly creep up. We got the tackles that can do it, and our center needs a little help. The problem becomes if you go 5-0, and everybody has to go one-on-one, but you could slide the whole line to protect your center. You basically say, listen, we're going to slide to the left or we're going to slide to the right, because that's what people are going to have to start doing if you go to a offensive protection like that.
By the way, I think that was amazing.
Football.
Yeah, come on. Let's give him this props.
I learned more about
Alex
offensive line.
Alex Boone, my head's swimming right now, but I loved
amazing.
it.
I think if you were to go, and we don't have the video clip here, but if you look at the game-winning touchdown pass, it was like a 30-yard touchdown pass. And if you watch that, I think it was exactly what Alex was describing. It was the center and the guards were sort of tight, and if you watch it, Brian O'Neill and Christian Darrisaw just did enough to like essentially push the edge rushers back toward, I guess you would say, the top of the pocket.
Top of the pocket, yeah.
And then Kirk very calmly, without any sort of like, it was almost like a 7-on-7 drill.
See?
Kirk, patty cake, 1-2, like stepped up in the pocket and just throws a dart to win the game. And if you watch, Darrisaw didn't like pancake block his opponent or anything, but he nimbly moved.
You don't even have to, you don't have to kill him either. Like, you just let them ride the wave all the way to the top of the pocket, and the quarterback just naturally climbs it. And it's when you used to watch old clips of Drew Brees, it was so annoying to watch him just shake, and then throw it. And I'm looking at this like, man, if you can't block with the center, then you're going to have to keep it tighter in the middle. And that, I'm telling you, if they figure out this pass protection, it's going to be dangerous, because a healthy Kirk and an unfazed Kirk going into November and December and even January, dude, that could be – this offense is clicking right now. And you know what's also helping them is KJ Osborne. Like, the fact that people don't respect him yet is like, God, you guys are so dumb. Like, somebody has to account. You cannot go man-to-man with this dude. And then he gives his tribute to Diggs. Dude, I got so – as soon as he threw his helmet, I was like, that had to be for Diggs.
That was amazing.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it was awesome. I loved it. I think this kid's incredible. And that's – dude, you're only going to get Irv Smith back. I mean, this – you're really
not this year. Probably not this year.
Well, eventually you will. But when you do, like, this offense could go to levels that people be like, dude, I mean, the receiving trio right now is incredible. You have Dalvin. Alexander Madison is just so incredible at the same time. Like, I love everything about him. And if they figure out this pass protection and they can keep Kirk in a really good place, I would be so interested to see where he goes.
How much then does the presence of Darrisaw at left tackle flat out change your ability to game plan then? So like that one guy, if to your point, you know, your guards aren't great, Bradbury's not great, they're okay. But now you've got 2 tackles who you trust. How much more can you open up the playbook and game plan things just based on the presence of a left tackle who is good?
Oh, it's huge. Think about all those max protection, or even like those play actions where you see 2 tight ends in backside. Like, these are things that just eventually fade away, and we don't have to keep so many guys in. And eventually, like, Two, when you talk about like getting running backs out and like Dalvin, what he can do when he catches it, Alexander Madison, what he can do when he catches it, like you just open up so much more in the playbook. And at the same time, you're not always like, hey, do we have to slide left? Do we have to expose other people at the same time? Like that's one of the things that people don't know is that like if you do have a really bad tackle somewhere, they always find the need to have to slide to them. So the other side's kind of always getting the raw deal of it because they're like, dude, at some point I would like some help. Like maybe just someone to take a quick shot on this guy while I'm holding him up. But like when you have to take all of your attention to the other side, like they'll even send running backs over there and tight ends. And like you just find yourself on this lonely island and you're like, dude, just a little help would be great. And the center's like, I'd love to, man, but I'm going to get chewed out if I do. I'm like, God, what did I do?
You mentioned Garrett Bradbury maybe needing to eat a couple cheeseburgers. Yeah. I would recommend he stay away from Livia because Livia is helping guys like Judd actually lose and shed pounds.
Livia weight control centers is my friend. So Darrisaw wants to be big and heavy. And
stay away from Livia. Stay away, Darrisaw.
Livia is the place, though, where if you want to turn yourself into a, let's say, receiver, a running back, a guy who's sleek and in great shape and nearly 52, but, oh, my God, he looks young, except for that beard. That is, my friends, the pandemic pounds peeling off. 2 weeks, boys, 2 weeks, 12 pounds. And now it's your turn. The best part is you join now. You get your first 10 weeks free, a limited time offer that ends soon. Where do you go? Livia.com, or you call 855-GO, LIVEA, Livia.com. If you play the line, you probably don't want it. But if you're looking to get in shape and take off the pandemic pounds like I'm doing, Livia.com. It's going to help you out.
Also, listen, Mike Zimmer probably not on the hot seat anymore after 2 straight wins, but if you're an NFL coach on a hot seat, I recommend Chill Boys, the most comfortable and cool, calm, and collected underwear you're ever going to find. And listen, we've been raving about Chill Boys for like 2 or 3 months on the show. Legitimately got rid of all my non-Chill Boys boxer briefs. And this is going to be sharing too much information here, all right?
Oh, okay.
So yesterday,
Boone's like, ugh.
Did a little like this chiseled body doesn't just create itself in the morning. I have to work out to create this chiseled body.
Wings.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I had sort of the athletic fitwear Chill Boys on, and after you get done working out, you're kind of a sweaty mess, right? Literally within like 10 or 15 minutes after the workout, the Chill Boys were dry. It's the most mind-blowing thing. So I'm still wearing them today. I haven't even showered yet. It's amazing.
Oh, I'd agree.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's sort of gross. But I mean, that's great because Chill Boys is where it's at.
The most comfortable underwear. And you can support
something.
the show. Chillboys.com, a Minnesota-based company, but they just care about your comfort. And 2 words, bamboo fabric, Boone. Bamboo fabric.
It does sound cozy.
It's really nice. It's really
Seriously.
comfortable.
And people ask, what does Chill Boys mean? What do you think it means? It's not that hard to figure out. Chillboys.com. All right,
Booney, I got a question because you often refer to, and I agree completely, teams and coaches being dumb. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Why would the Carolina Panthers, when you look at the stats, why would the Carolina Panthers come out and think to themselves, Sam Darnold, oh yeah, we're going to throw the ball. We're going to throw. I mean, the Vikings run defense was like, I don't know, 21st, 22nd. It's been gashed. The Panthers can run, and Sam Darnold, last I checked, is still Sam Darnold. Why would you come out with the game plan that they did to try to attack the Vikings defensively on Sunday?
Honestly, I think a lot of it was they thought that maybe Sam had turned a corner. And there's no question that team is not the same without Christian McCaffrey. Like when he's on the field, they're a completely different team. And I love what this Chuba Hubbard's doing. Like he's a really tough runner and he gets his yards like really hard and he's not afraid to throw a shoulder into people. But at the same time, they did have a lot of drops and a lot of really bad drops. Like, dude, there was a couple that hit a couple guys in the face mask. Like, dude, I don't know if your locker's going to be there tomorrow. Like eventually they're going to cut you. If you
what happened to Robbie Anderson? Like,
dude,
I know
he was nowhere until that touchdown. And you're like, what are
DJ Moore too.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
At times, and this is such like a Kirk place to be. Like everybody wants to kind of lay it on Sam Darnold, like, oh, he's going back to the Jets thing. I'm like, listen, there was at least 7 drops that I saw that probably changed that game. But at the same time, like when he does make a bad throw, you're like, wow, that's bad. Like I don't know what the hell he was thinking there, like seeing ghosts and doing something. But it's one of those things where he's so young. We clearly know he can't compete on his own with the team. He needs that Christian McCaffrey next to him. And even then, like when he has Christian, they're great. And they did a great job to start the year. But it's one of those things where he needs a wingman, and when he doesn't have one like Christian, it shows up in a huge way.
See, I feel like I'm just trying to think back to your career. Like you always had at least like competent guys, it felt like, at quarterback. Like Alex Smith, competent guy.
Always.
Like maybe not dynamic. I mean, Colin Kaepernick was, took the NFL by storm. And then Sam Like I feel like you never went through a stretch of like 4 years where it was like Ryan Lindley back there
never.
or something,
Never. I never had a bad quarterback.
But that must be demoralizing for guys. Like if you know that, I mean, Sam Darnold didn't get help, but Sam Darnold's also just not a top 20 quarterback in the league. That must really be tough if you're playing on a team and it's like, God, this guy gives us no chance right now.
Yeah, I think that I've talked to people before that have been like, dude, it's just going to be helter-skelter today. And I'm like, really? You think so? Like, bro, yeah, I know so. And it does have to be demoralizing, but at the same time, you're playing the game to play the game. And you get out there and things change and your emotions take over and you're like, you know what? If he's not going to do it, maybe the running back will do it, or maybe a receiver will show up. Like, I could honestly say that, and even going into games with backups, and maybe even the backups back up at quarterback, like you go in and you're not like, well, we're going to lose this game. You go in like, well, it's on us to go out and hit somebody really hard in the face to shock the world. And it's at the same time, it's kind of a rush because you're like, this game could go so bad for us. And at the same time, if it goes bad, you're going to be in a 2-minute situation the whole game. And that's when you're like, man, that's when things get crazy. Like even up in Seattle, we used to go up there and they would just dominate us like 41-0 at halftime. We were like, dude, 2 minutes the rest of the game. And it's one of those situations where you're like, you're not giving up hope because at the same time, like everyone's counting on you. And if you don't show up because the game went down, like you're going to be judged by everybody, including America.
Have you ever said we're screwed?
Yeah, a lot of times.
Like we're just absolutely screwed.
Like I think a lot of times we go in at halftime and they'd be like, sometimes you'd see the adjustments and you'd be like, this is just not going to end well. Like no one's seeing the big picture here. And at times it was like to me, the answer was so glaring and right in your face. And sometimes I feel like people couldn't see the forest for the trees. Like they're just looking for something crazy and dynamic, and at the same time you're like, listen, it doesn't have to be super fancy. Like it just has to be the answer. It has to be the right answer. And I think a lot of times when you get into a late game with a really good team, like even when we went to New England one year in December, all we had heard was Tom Brady was like 50-0 in December, and we had went up like 49-0 on them, and they ended up driving all the way back, and it's like 2 minutes, and Tom gets the ball, and you're like, there's no way this is going to happen. Like you're looking around, everyone's looking around like, yep, this is it. This is how we go down in flames. This guy drives all the way back. We ended up like intercepting him to win the game, but it's one of those things where it's a terrible feeling when you're like, it's over. This guy's just going to do it again. We're going to lose the game. Go long flight home. It's going to be miserable.
Yeah. Hey, how did you? I've totally just a random side question. Thinking about the Livia and when you had to go from, because like, dude, you were doing like Iron Man, like when like you and I met like 3 years ago, and you were like lean, mean, and then you worked your way back up to NFL playing weight and got signed by the Seattle Seahawks. I guess we can officially make this what's on Boone's mind. I'm going to force this on him here.
Yes.
So, how much weight did you have to gain from when you got down to like your leanest to being back on an NFL roster? And what did you eat every day to get back up to that weight?
Dude, when I got ready, I had to do that. It was a triathlon, and it was tough. I went vegan to lose all that weight. I got down to like 240. I was 315. I got all the way down to 240.
Wow.
Ended up running it, and then obviously it was like, listen, let's go play. So then I had to go just pack on so much food, and it was so hard. It was like a lot of dairy and a lot of pie at night, like a whole pie. I had to get big. And now,
see, most people hear that and they'd be like, that sounds amazing. I just get to eat pie every night. But
it was great until you're like, oh, my knees hurt so bad again. Like, being 240, my knees felt great. And now I'm like, my wife's got me signed up. Check this out. It's called the American Triple T, and it's 4 distances of the Ironman. It's like the super sprint, the sprint, the intermediate, and the half Ironman, all in one weekend. I have to do.
So it's 4 different. It's like the 4 different
races,
lengths of Ironman,
all in one weekend. I was like, wow, this is. So now I'm going back down to 240.
Okay, when is this? When is it?
Next May. It's so yeah. If you see me biking, please don't laugh. I was like looking at the distance. I was like, man, I gotta take like 100 miles on my bike. Like, where am I gonna go for 100 miles? And like, here we come, Minneapolis, going downtown.
So, so like when you're trying to pack the pounds back on, do you get like a dietitian to do it safely, or just say, screw it, I'm going to just eat 18 pies in a week and be done with it?
No, when I was training, when I was in the league, my trainer, my ex-mentor at the time, we were super into like everything, nutrition, weightlifting. So he would read all these books, and then we would just go out. We did some of the craziest diets ever. Like we went like no carbs for a whole year to see what it did. Tons of just like, can we do it? Can it be done? It's great on the knees. Like we found out so many things, but at the same time, it's like everything's so easy. As long as you eat good food and you work out, like you're going to be fine. You know, it's bad food, you know? I mean, I don't have to be like, listen, put the cheeseburger down, guys. That's not good for us.
It kind of feels like there's, when you go and like watch old clips of the NFL, that like the guys that were 280, 300-pound linemen were just, they were fat. Like they were, it was like fast food weight, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like, you look at some of these dudes, not to say that there aren't fat guys in the NFL,
there are.
don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of dudes who are also like 250, 275 pounds, defensive ends, linebackers, whatever. And it's like 3% body fat. Danielle Hunter, for instance, is absurd.
Danielle is a huge, there's no question. And that has been the resurgence of like all these offensive linemen drastically losing this weight, is because they're like, I feel like if I'm too big, I can't keep up with these guys because they're faster, they're longer. Like the better the D linemen get, the leaner the offensive linemen are going to have to, so they think. But like, to me, guys now are a lot sloppier. Like their bodies just look sloppy, as opposed to like back in the day. And I think of guys like, especially in this division, like remember Matt Slauson in Chicago? Like he was just a thick dude. Josh Sutton in Green Bay. Like they were just big, thick dudes. And now it's like, oh my God, I don't even know what that looks like. It's just not, and you can tell that guys are trying as hard as they can to be leaner and thinner, because I feel like they want to keep up with this speed, especially because like, look at these pass rush situations where people are bringing defensive ends all inside now, and even over the center, like everyone's a victim of a defensive end trying to get after him. So it's like, if this is going to happen, I have to be lighter. That way I can get out of my stance faster, as opposed to just being like, no, I'm just going to be as big as I am and work on getting out of my stance faster. That way, when they try to hit me with some stupid bull rush, they're just going to fall to the ground because I'm so big.
Yeah. And then you get guys like Baker Mayfield's a great example of this, where in college, Baker Mayfield was mobile and he could get away from pressure. It's like, then you put a Danielle Hunter on the opposite end. It's like, dude, you're not outrunning him.
Ever.
Sorry.
I've seen him run.
I feel like if I'm a guard, I get fat. If I'm a tackle, I don't get fat. I feel like if I be, because these guys interior wise are mammoth and athletic.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like if I'm Bradbury, I would just try and get as fat as possible, just to take up space.
I wouldn't say
take up room. Just eat like 18 cupcakes, 36 burgers. Just occupy space, my man. The A gap. If there's no A gap to run through, my guy can't get through it.
Eventually, there's an A gap, Judd. Eventually, there has to be an A gap.
Well, then you're gonna have to knock my fat ass over.
There's always an A gap. There's always an A gap.
Weeble.
All right.
Weebles wobble, Booney. Eventually, I'll just fall backwards, but before I do, I'll be huge.
Oh my God! There's always an A gap. Never forget.
I love it. The A gap.
Alex, what's your favorite football gap?
Oh, for sure, the A gap.
The A gap.
Because that's power, right?
Dude, that's making a statement.
Yeah.
Dude, we used to have a guy, and this is a true story. Jimmy Ray. Did you guys remember Jimmy Ray? He was an offensive coordinator for the Niners for a long time.
I remember the name.
Yeah, he was probably the toughest guy to ever wear shoes. I mean, this guy was just mean, and he'd be talking about like ISOs all the time. He loved running Frank through the A gaps, and he'd be like, this is a downhill run, A gap to A gap down the B gap rail with assholes in the elbows. We got to come out smashing. This is not allowed to go out to the C gap. I don't think so. I was like, oh man, this guy is awesome. And they never, ever bounced it to the C gap. I was like, why does he keep cramming it? And they're like, bro, don't ever bounce it to the C gap. I was like, okay. And then I heard Jimmy Ray talk a couple times, and I was like, I get why now. Like this guy, he had the bet. He'd get up there and yell at us all the time about a free cup of coffee was $1.99, and he was like, I'm going to go to Carl's Jr. to find my next tackles because you guys suck. I was
See, that's what I'm telling you.
This guy is the man.
Yeah, exactly. Good guys.
See?
Michael Pierce.
Jr., dude.
Michael
Amazing.
Pierce.
I loved him.
True fat man. I like him.
So, Booney, before we go, what is on your mind? Anything brewing upstairs for you?
Well, I mean, obviously, We were celebrating the championship that we won last night.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. 4th grade. It was very defensive battle, 7-0. It was a good team. We played the other EP team. But other than that, you know what I was thinking about when I was watching all this film, man? You know, I really respect Eric Kendricks so much. Like, I feel like people are kind of sleeping on him this year, but watching him get held like every other play on zone by fat, slow linemen is just got to be demoralizing. Like, I see him yelling at the ref all the time. I'm like, hey, man, you can yell as much as you want, but they're never going to call those because nobody can ever see what happens in the middle. But at the same time, like, dude, when they got that touchdown over him, I was like, wow, dude, somebody actually did something against him. Like, to me, that was kind of eye-opening and kind of like, oh, man, I wonder if someone's going to try and exploit that again. But at the same time, like, the dude is so underrated for this team.
Yeah, I mean, he is like the Vikings have had throughout their franchise history, they've had some linebackers. I mean, even going back, like EJ Henderson's not a Hall of Fame guy, but like they've always had a guy that you can sort of rely on, Chad Greenway or somebody, and Eric Kendricks is. I mean, he's right in there. Like, he's Mount Rushmore of Vikings linebackers.
For sure.
He's got great hands too.
He does.
He's got marvelous hands.
Even though he dropped that one.
Yeah, but
last week he had that one-hander that was stupid sweet.
Yeah. You only need one hand to crack a Surly Furious, Judd.
How could we forget? In fact, you know what? I could do one right now because I have a Surly Furious right in front of me. You know, it's always sitting here. And when it comes to the weekend and football, you too should stock up. Go to your local liquor store today. Pick up your Surly. All of the brands are great. Furious in particular. That's the best, in my opinion. Surly Furious. We appreciate them sponsoring, of course, and putting the brand name on all things Purple Daily. Two Pro Bowl talents, Purple Daily, Marconi actually, and Surly Furious.
That's right, Marconi finalists. We'll find out, by the way, in November.
That's right, Boone, you're part of a big show here.
Here we go.
Marconi finalists.
We're going.
Also, a shout out to a Federated Mutual Insurance Company. If you're looking to, much like an offensive line would protect a quarterback and allow him to throw a game-winning touchdown in Carolina, Federated helps you avoid risk and manage risk as a business owner. Over 100 years of experience, based in Owatonna, and they know what they're doing, all right? They've got all sorts of resources and people and plans that you can tap into at federatedinsurance.com if you just want to sleep better at night as a business owner. Federated Insurance, and remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours.
Football.
Awesome stuff.
Hey, by the way, Declan, for all the text messages that you send me about being fired up, you don't ever say, and you don't even have one question. Dude, we're not going to talk about, like, I'm in the middle of a skating session. This dude's over here, like, chirping at me about how I better be excited.
I'm not chirping. I'm just making sure Boone's going to be here on Tuesday. It's my executive production level. I just want to make sure the show's going okay.
I woke up. The energy level hit 10 the minute the eyes came awake.
Okay, here's what we need to do, and this is probably my fault. Like, I'll be a better traffic cop here, but we're gonna like at the halfway point of these Boone episodes on Tuesdays.
Okay,
we're gonna throw it to Declan, and it's gonna be Declan's turn to get amped up about football. All right.
Okay.
So let's do it right now.
Let's go.
What are you amped up about, Declan? What do you want to ask Boone? Or is there a take? Do you have a take?
Talk trash to him.
Yeah, if you have a take.
I'm not talking trash. No. Boone and I are buddies. I'm not going to talk trash to him. Boone, after that game on Sunday, and I know after the Lions game, they almost lost to Dan Campbell, and you almost lost to that putrid Matt Rule team. I want somebody fired. I wanted someone fired so bad. I want someone canned. This is like, it's unacceptable. You like almost lose games to two of the worst teams and worst run teams in the NFL right now. It's embarrassing to me, and I still want someone canned. I don't care. It's the bye week.
I mean, I agree with you, and I understand what you're saying. Like, the defensive line was like, the run defense should never be a question, and the fact that it is a question is somebody has to be responsible for it. But at the same time, it's like, you can't fire somebody without making waves up there. You're not getting rid of Andre. You're not getting rid of the head coach's son. You're not getting rid of the head coach. So at some point, who are you getting rid of? You're not going to really get rid of anybody. Like,
come on, Spielman.
I get it. Like,
be a man, Spielman. Fire Zimmer's
someone.
son. Fire Adam.
Oh my God.
Fire his ass.
Dude,
grapefruit's on the table, Boone. Grapefruit's on the table.
Hey.
Too hot. That's too hot for me.
Grapefruits. You got watermelons on the table. You do that.
That's
like,
right.
You are stirring the pot. That's the problem. Like, I agree with you. Like, and this is that goes back to like this whole coaching thing. Is like this is a defensive led team, and yet this rush defense is just putrid. And you're like, dude, at some point, that is the one thing that every good defense always did. They always knew, listen, I got to be stout up front, and in the back end we can bend, but we don't break. And when you can't get that going, like you're right, you're playing these putrid teams that don't have rush teams, but now all of a sudden you're going to be turning around. I mean, the Bears rush game's been going up. The Packers, they use Aaron Jones every which way they can. A.J. Dillon, like these teams are going to start coming out of the woodwork, and the good teams have already, in my opinion, started separating themselves. Now there are teams that are in the bubble right now that are just like helter skelter. Like I'll give you the best example: Minnesota, Tennessee. Like you just don't know what team's coming out that day. But if you can go out and stop the run, you're going to win, 3 or 4 more extra games because you're going to put quarterbacks into positions that they cannot handle. And that's, I mean, dude, like the Browns, if you would have shut that rush game down, dude, Baker would have probably thrown 7 interceptions. I mean, that game would have been nowhere near whatever it was. I mean, I don't even know what you call those kind of games anymore because they just don't happen. But when you let a team run the ball all over you and they just drain this clock down on you, and then your offense feels the pressure because they know every possession matters because I don't know when we're getting the ball again. Like these are things that add up. And yeah, I agree. Somebody needs to take responsibility for it.
I think Declan just wants to do the Vince McMahon walk into the Vikings locker room and just
He
say,
won't.
"You're fired,
Adam Zimmer.
fired."
I'm
Adam
flipping a table,
Zimmer,
Boone.
you're
I'm flipping a
paying the
table.
price.
You should go to the next time he's doing his presser and just walk in and do it.
I'd fire you.
I'll fire you.
You're fired.
Question for Mike's son.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to
Two more.
let's go to time for 2 more. Let's go to the second row
Time
there.
for 2
Declan
more.
gets the microphone. Mike,
more.
you're fired.
You're
I'm sorry.
fired.
What, is there a
Mike,
question?
your son. No,
dude,
your son
your
should
son's
be fired.
fired.
That's even worse.
Fire his ass. Football. That's right.
There you go, dude.
So I have a question. When you're looking at this father-son tandem, and you obviously have the Belichicks and you have the Zimmers, like who do you think is winning that battle right now?
Dude, no one's beating Steve Belichick in anything.
Steve Belichick is my favorite human on earth right now.
Dude, his faces that he makes,
God.
he is. I got at some point. I'm like, is he messing with us? Like he must know the camera's on him, right?
The tongue out.
Oh,
The tongue
this
out
is-
one.
We do have exclusive audio. This is Steve. This is not Bill Belichick. This is Steve Belichick.
Let's do it.
All right, hold on a second.
I don't know. I haven't really thought about how it correlates. It's just trying to do my thing, and I think that that's what's best. So that's what we're trying to do.
Steve, Phil asked you about the chores. Do you have a memory of your first football chore or one of your first football chores that he asked you to do?
Yeah, I got a couple memories of those.
Yeah, I got a couple.
We would never talk about that.
It's a
we
great
would never
question,
talk
too.
about my
He's got this
football
dance
memories.
talked out. So
Oh my God, it's terrifying.
Okay, is he wearing that mullet ironically because it's like Jared Allen had a mullet, right? Like because it was hilarious, and he wore 69 because that's Jared Allen. I don't think Steve Belichick is being ironic. I think that's his hairstyle.
I think that's who he is, and I think all those facial expressions are just him standing there naturally chilling. Like I know, right? They keep panning to him on the sideline, and I just lose it. I'm like, dude, somebody has to be telling him that they're showing him or something because they catch him in the most awkward, just tongues like back and forth. Like, what the? Could you imagine being like a player looking over at the call? Like,
No.
what the hell are you doing?
I want to see this. Steve on a date.
Oh,
what I
you'll
want
never
to
see that.
Dude,
That's what I want to see.
First of all,
I'd
he's
pay-
never been. He's zero
No.
chance, right?
Never.
I'd pay to see
I've been on a
Steve
couple.
on a date. Let's
Guaranteed.
arrange like 5 dates for Steve and see how awkward he makes each one of them.
Does Steve has a Tinder profile? It's got to be in there somewhere.
Just no chance. Married to football.
Oh my God. All right. That's a wrap on Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company. Alex Boone every Tuesday with us. And if you miss Vikings Vent Line, it's the most fan-friendly interactive show in Minnesota sports, so check that out also. Purple Daily, Daily Vikings Entertainment by Booney. See you guys.